All right, everybody, it's 1 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everybody to the December 2021 meeting of the Rappahannock Regional Commission. I would like to first thank Madison County for hosting us here at the Tap 29. Thanks, Michelle. Newly renovated room. This is fantastic. It's great to be able to all be here and spread out comfortably and have an enjoyable meeting this afternoon. Special welcome to Clay Jackson, Chair of the Board of Supervisors, and to Tracy Gardner, who's the Director of Tourism and Economic Development at Madison County. Thank you both. First thing we'd like to do is pledge allegiance to our I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Meeting's going to be a little bit different today. It doesn't appear that we have a quorum, but this morning we can call the roll and see who is here.
Do you want to just want to convene the executive committee? It's clear visually we don't have.
Okay.
I'm happy to call roll if you prefer.
No, if we don't need to, that's fine. Yeah, this clear we don't have a quorum. So in this instance, we have to convene executive committee. And if you would explain for everybody's benefit, sure, so we all stay on track what that means for us today.
So the executive committee members currently are Chair Taylor, Vice Chair Paul McCullough, who is participating virtually as of right now. Treasurer Mr. Woods from Town of Orange, Mayor Kaplan from Town of Washington, and Mayor Coyer. The way that this will run this, I think the agenda, assuming this is adopted, would be the same. There's a couple items, action items required staff's perspective that we need approval of from the executive committee today. The remainder I receive reports. The chair's discretion, I think there's opportunity for other members of the commission to weigh in on individual agenda items as needed. In terms of voting with the executive committee members. So I'll call the roll in the executive committee. Ms. Taylor? Here. Mr. McCullough?
Here.
Mayor Coyer? Here. Mayor Kaplan? Here. And Mr. Woods? Here.
Okay, so we are set with the executive committee. Are there any changes or additions to today's agenda?
I'd like to add changing our charter to include allowing alternates on the board. We've had several meetings where we've come from a distance and not had a quorum. And this is not to cast aspersions at all on those that can't be here, because they could have absolute no way they could be here. This is just to allow us to continue having meetings so that people can come. If they have an alternate approved, they can call them and then they give us another shot for a representative from that town or county. And we can still have a full meeting without doing a last minute recheck. And so my proposal would be to change your charter to allow alternate And to encourage everyone to do it, to allow it and nobody do it with help, to encourage everyone to have an alternate commission member from their localities. So.
Say what that is. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that is, and we'll have a meeting for further discussion and to vote on that. Any other changes or additions to the agenda?
If I need to do this, if I might, because of this, we're all participating electronically, you need to
That's
approve
right.
that participation. So, Mr. McCullough did notify myself and the chair is need to participate electronically today, prior to the meeting. The actions that the commission will take for the executive committee, will record that action in the minutes of the executive committee meeting. It is audible to anyone in the room here and you're all of us. And there's a limitation on per calendar year, which is 25% of meetings or 2 meetings per year. This would be the second from Mr. McCullough, so it's within that.
We don't have to vote on that. We did that last time too.
Well, we need to approve his participation.
So I guess I need a motion from the group to approve the remote participation.
So moved.
Second.
And motion is second, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Sorry about forgetting that, but I forget he's up there on the screen. Okay, now I guess we need, if there are no other additions or changes to the agenda, we need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Anyone from the public here who would like to speak? Were you aware of the public comment?
I was not.
All right, we will move on today. We don't have any presentations. Refer minutes to the next meeting. We don't have everyone here. We'll move to the financial reports. We have item 8A, the draft audit report completed by Don Rhodes. We looked at this in October as is tradition, and we took action in December. Does anyone have any questions about the audit?
I'll move to approve. No question.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, if not, all in favor of the adoption of the audit for 2021, say aye. Opposed? Okay, Patrick, we can move on to the financial reports through November.
Sure, and I'll be brief here, as is noted on the memo in your packet. The through November, which is 42% of the fiscal year, we received 43.5% of revenues. Most of our grants we started to receive reimbursements for, and that's the first reimbursement for the NIFLIP Chesapeake-based watershed grant. We got the first receipt of funding for the Virginia Housing and PDC Housing Development Program, which was not tied to staff spending, but was just a Virginia Housing actually said up front, you can all request $20,000 just to cover initial costs. And we've done that. And then the other annual grants are starting to roll in terms of reimbursements. Expenses were at 28.4%, so we're behind, and that's pretty typical for us. We do receive revenues just for local news and events up front calendar year. So expenses will catch up as the year goes on. I do anticipate for February having an amended budget for the commission to consider, just to move a couple items, software and then other potential adjustments that we'll have in terms of expenses, but nothing is tracking out of line with what we expected. This probably be a good position to answer questions.
Anyone have any questions for the director? Okay. Why don't you move on then to your director's report?
Do we do minutes or do we not do minutes with the executive?
Yeah, I deferred him to next time. Since
Oh, I didn't hear you. Oh, no,
We will do the same thing with the financial report.
Well, the financial report doesn't need to, so anything. And the audit, the reason we asked for the adoption of the audit is from the executive committee at this time is because we do have state agencies that representative return that to the full commission confirmation. Director's report, just a couple of things to really highlight here. shared by email with each of you that we were looking for a new coordinated entry specialist for Hoodless Housing Network. We did hire D'Angelo Alexander who began last Thursday. So she's getting up to speed with the coordinated entry for homeless services assistance in the region. And we expect that to really, it's sort of a long-term goal in terms of giving a little more professionalism to coordinated entry and just a background. She has a background in social work. I think will be a good fit for that position. That role. We're working on, as of last week, when they put together the report and budget request for Culpeper and Orange County in terms of their timeline. Through 17th of this month, Orange just after New Year's. And since received from Madison County their timeline also, which is January 14th. So working through all those local budget requests and putting those together and specified rates for localities. So if there are changes for any of you other localities in terms of timeline and items that you need, just let me know. Under hazard mitigation emergency planning, we have been doing, Matthew Decatur in our office has been working on our wildfire risk analysis. This was a grant that we got 2020 to do some updated GIS analysis related to wildfires. Something the Department of Forestry had previously done about just around 2000, never updated. So we're putting that in draft form. Plan to share with some of our committees, the Land Use Environment Committee and the emergency managers. 2022, and we'll report back to the commission with that draft report in February also. We did submit the hazard mitigation grant application in early November, so we should hear back from that in 2022 and begin that work late next calendar year. Redistricting, we had a work session with Culpeper County Board of Supervisors back in November. It's an interesting process to go through in terms of input coming back and forth, and certainly from having the board and staff, it's helpful because of just their local knowledge of, okay, this census block runs through along this stream or along this road, or those sorts of things. So I thought it worked pretty well with Culpeper County, and they've taken some additional steps beyond that. We're going to work with Rappahannock County and town of Warrenton also as we go through that process. We did have one meeting with town of Warrenton staff to go through their process as they were in town with boards in the region. And the last thing I want to bring up is just to let you all know that we've been working with partners primarily in Culpeper, but some that span beyond, again, with Hoodless Housing Network, really to talk about some of the issues we're facing, the homeless services system is facing with sheltering individuals. The directives from federal and state government for the past year and a half have been to have those individuals placed in non-congregate shelter to allow for distancing and things of that nature due to COVID-19. What we found is last year when no one was traveling and hotels were pretty empty, is that most of them were willing to work with us on that. And when by us, I mean service provider partners in community touch and hospital shelter services. And what we run into now is most of the hotels we work with starts that we can allow a certain number, but are not willing to go past that number, and also sort of run into issues with it. So we could certainly give you the room during the week, but we have people working on weekends, and so we've reached capacity in terms of the hotels that we've been using. So some of the longer term discussions have been about what would is there a site or is there an opportunity for making a larger sort of shelter available. We've also been talking with the heat shelter in Culpeper about even though they're not operating in St. Luke's, in the basement of St. Luke's this year, if they would have capacity to provide volunteers if there was a patient that could be opened on a temporary basis. So again, it's predominantly been in Culpeper, but we know the same conversations have been happening with some of our partners in Rockford County as well. So just letting you all know that that's sort of ongoing. We're working to figure out some solutions there. That's best rate. So I'm happy to answer any questions on any of those things. I didn't reach down on the report, but the last thing I do want to mention is included in your package is just for your reference, is the scope of services for next year's Chesapeake Bay watershed implementation program. And the one item I want to highlight is actually on the regionally specific deliverables that we've identified. The first two, one is the continued development of the Upper Rappahannock River watershed plan, which we're in the middle of right now. second and Mr. McCullough that for feedback now, but at some point just would be good to get an update from our perspective on any considerations that the county is given to the Healthy Watershed Forest Initiative, and if our staff can assist in that, we've definitely got the ability to leverage some of the funding we have for this program to assist with staff time. The last thing is that we have sort of posited out a desire to use what's the local government guide to Chesapeake Bay, which is a Chesapeake Bay program, local leadership work group publication, just to do some outreach to primarily to elected officials in the region. So this would be if there's an opportunity to present to boards or councils on, it's a brief presentation on that local government guide to Chesapeake Bay. The other item that potentially that could help with is I know the Chesapeake Bay program is looking to do another watershed tour. So a couple of years ago, I think Mr. Crozier and maybe Mr. Frazier from Rappahannock County, if I'm not mistaken, participated where there was a kind of a 2-day trip through the watershed and sort of gave information, did some site visits at various locations up and down the Rappahannock. So I know they're looking at doing that again. So again, that's something that we're going to work on over 2022, but we'll likely reach out to each of you at some point, whether it's elected board of supervisors, county council, or even an appointed board like a planning commission that might benefit from it. So just want to make sure that I shared that with you.
Does anyone have any questions? Any director's report, comments? Thank you. We'll move on then to staff updates. Jennifer and Patrick will provide an update on the PDC housing development activities and timeline.
So I'll take the first shot and I'll have Jennifer give you some brief information. As you all know, in November, we released a proof of concept request to affordable housing developers for potential projects, and this was really meant to be a high level kind of overview, mostly to kind of incorporate it and document some of the conversations that we've had as staff with potential partners, but also to give other interested parties the opportunity to submit information. The other benefit for us was to give us a sense of how much the request that we might receive would be, and also just really what the interest was kind of across the region. So we did that. Those were due on Monday afternoon, and we'll let Jennifer just kind of give a brief information in terms of what we received from a high level.
All right, I hope everyone can hear me okay. So the good news is we received 9 proposed housing projects from 4 different counties here within the region. The total number of units that are in these proposed projects is 180. Unfortunately, the total request to help fund these units and get them built is over 6.2 million. Our grant is limited to 2 million, so we'll have to see how that plays out. So the request cost per unit, I was just running some numbers in my idea. They range from about $10,000 per unit to about $75,000 per unit. What factors into that is the scale of economies. In other words, the larger the project, more units, less cost per unit. 7 of those 9 proposed housing projects are oriented towards developing rental units. So that means 2 of them are exploring home ownership opportunities. And 5 of the proposed housing projects made it very clear that their target household demographics are for households making 60% AMI or area median income respective to each county's income bands. And the remainder of those, they were not clear except to repeat what the qualifications for the grant is, which is 80% area median. And those are just the preliminary numbers that we have at this point. Are there any questions that I can answer for you or? Yes.
What are the 4 counties?
They are Madison, Orange, Culpeper, and Fauquier.
And some of those I would note are in towns within the county, so. Break that out.
Anyone else?
It's encouraging, I think, to see so many proposals.
What's the decision? I'm sorry, you said it.
So our process, and that's a good question, Mayor Catlin. Our process at this point is we've laid out sort of a two-phase process to get this proof of concept and then to be able to have a larger application that would give more financial details. I think what we anticipate is working through as staff over the next month to figure out what questions we have of these 9 proposals, and then having the full application materials delivered back to us in January at some point. By the February commission meeting, based on our timeline, but also other grant program timelines and tax credit timelines, I would anticipate us having at least a recommended, set of projects for the commission to consider. Part of the process will be working with the executive committee and other interested, commissioners and other stakeholders that we've worked with in terms of scoring the applications and making full applications in place. What I would say is that all of the projects have merit at this point. It's really going to be, what's the goals for the region in terms of, having some geographic equity, having some innovative projects, where it's, looking at just the total number of units and the cost per unit, and a lot of that's going to work out as we go through the process of the last stage.
So as I understand, you will have quantitative measures.
We will, for the full application, that would be something that as staff we would provide back out to the executive committee, but again, some of our other partners that have indicated the ability to score. What we would also, at least initially plan to do is try to anonymize the projects as much as we can in terms of where they are, who the applicant is, just so we can sort of say it's a fair process.
Anyone else? Comments, questions? All right, then I guess we'll move on to transportation. You may recall staff is in the process of updating the regional and long-range transportation plan in advance of the next round of smart scale. So, can you give us a status update on that?
I will be very brief here. So we presented this back in April to the commission, a preliminary long-range plan. As a reminder, really what we've done with this, the last RRRC was adopted in 2011, and so much has changed in funding, smart scale, and other funding programs that weren't in place previously. So what we've done with this update is to try to incorporate some of the things that are needed in terms of bridges that may need maintenance, that sort of the typical things that are happening, but also make it usable in terms of including smart scale projects that are likely to move forward from the region, because there are points to be scored from applications being included from projects that are included in the regional plan. So it's really been streamlined from a list of, I think, over 300 projects with the previous plan. It was very aspirational to much more of this is a working document that will probably be updated every couple of years within the smart scale timeline. So what we have, and the link is there, and then what we will do after this meeting is send the press release out to seek public input and public comment, the draft as it stands. But that's really where we are. We've incorporated changes that we've received since April, and now it's time to move forward that action process.
Comments, questions? All right. I think as far as new business goes, we were going to defer a few of these items because we don't have everything here. I think though the Title VI plan update, we did want to go ahead and discuss that.
If we could have the executive committee consider the Title VI plan, just because there's a timeline for that. As you might recall, the Title VI is related to from the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The Commission previously had a plan adopted in 2018. Actually, we had one before that in 2014 also. It's a requirement of our grants with Department of Rail and Public Transportation originally, and that was the impetus for the first and second plans that we put in place. Over the last probably year or so, VDOT has also instituted the same requirements for us to have this plan that it relates to outreach and how we're communicating and how we're taking input from all members of the community, but specifically disenfranchised populations. And so, if I can complain for just a few minutes, one of the things previously with the Department of Rail Public Transportation is they had a very streamlined process where they had a template and they said, here's the template, put the information in, that's what we need. And that's what, make adjustments to it. It's a pretty simple process. VDOT was not as user-friendly in terms of their review. We sent our plan into VDOT, they reviewed and said, the plan is deficient, fix it. And when we asked for more details, they said the person that did the review is no longer here, so we don't know what, you just need to fix it. So really where we're at now is that DRPT has given their blessing to our plan update, which we cover the next 3 years. Not yet received comments back from VDOT, but in order to maintain our, frankly, our relationship and statement of grace with DRPT, that's what I'm asking for today, is adoption of the plan. The real updates here, it was changing out some staff that has turned over since 2018, and then updating some census data, also some language data. As you might figure for our region, the only non-English language that reaches a threshold where we would need to potentially take action is Spanish. We do have those, we have a language line contract in place that if someone calls in and seeks Spanish interpretation or translation, we can do that. We have one staff member that is fluent in Spanish that can do that on sort of lower cost or smaller items that would be done. And then the other thing would be just making sure that if requested, that we've got some meeting, we've got options for sign language or other meeting requirements for both meetings. So all of that's in there. Really, the main changes this time are just, like I said, the various updates, and then trying to tie in VDOT a little more closely to their process. So I'm happy to answer questions on it. It's something we have to have as being moved by various federal agencies.
Anyone have any questions?
I'm shocked that you're having trouble with the government not giving you a clear direction.
I was wondering when someone would.
Well, and we're in open session, but what I would say is that amongst myself and other TDC directors, the feeling is that agencies get told you're not doing this properly, and so then that trickle down effect falls to us in terms of now you're getting something in for things.
If no one has any further questions or comments, we need a motion on this.
I'd like to move to adopt the 2022-2024 RRRC Title VI plan.
We have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Again, as I said, we're going to hold off on a couple of these other items. I do think for 11D, 12D, I guess, the legislative platform. Mr. James usually comes in and updates us on that. But, get an update here. And
Yeah, I can give you just the high level stuff, the changes from previous. If you might recall, I mean, people have been here for some years. This has traditionally been a legislative platform that covers our region, Planning District 9, as well as Planning District 16 in Fredericksburg. That's generally VACO Region 7, or Madison County, VACO Region 6. And that's been, frankly, the way that's been in place from about the mid-90s until last year. There were some changes in terms of the contract. Fauquier County stepped in and has a contract with Mr. James, and also has a part of that contract that covers the regional platform. And it's the other localities that have access to Mr. James and his services. And so this year's the platform that's here today is really specific to our region. And what that also entails is removing some of those various things related to transportation that weren't really relevant to our region, but were relevant to Fredericksburg. There's also then we would have discussion with some of the county administrators and town managers just about adding some things in related to mental health services, certainly with broadband continuing to be a focus for pretty much everybody. So there's not been huge changes to the legislative platform, but it is specific to our region to make sure that you're all aware of it. I would also say that if you have questions on this, or if you have things that you want communicated back to a legislative liaison, then, you certainly have your local processes that you can follow, but you can also send stuff through and pass it on to help, kind of get answers on that sort of thing as well. So, I don't know that we need to endorse it. I mean, I think if the platform is what it is, and it has its marching orders. I would say that probably after General Assembly this year, we'll have a whole council meeting to kind of go report back.
Yeah. Anyone have anything on the priority issues and other issues? Okay, the compensation reports.
Madam Chair, I do want to say one thing about what I want to say.
Yeah,
It's just, and it's maybe slightly politically naive, but I'm going to share it because I think that sometimes concepts that get repeated enough might start to get some traction. So it's this. I don't think that our upcoming or incoming governor necessarily on the grocery tax issue. I don't know that that's why Virginians elected him. I might speculate that that's not. I just broadly think that any candidate's going to try some things out, and whatever sticks is the horse they're going to ride. And I think we know the grocery tax wasn't it. Unlike Governor Gilmore's car tax, where I think there was a lot of pent-up frustration with that, and that was important. So I think as localities, if we, and again, I'm not trying to take a stand on tax relief as a general concept. That's not, it's above my pay grade. But that specific tax, it's really going to be complicated to implement and has a big impact on school funding. And it's just to try to implement that right away without a whole lot of work is going to create a lot of issues for the whole Commonwealth. I think there are other priorities that the incoming governor might find to be more palatable to everyone. I would say, we say early and often as localities that we don't really care so much about that. In fact, we prefer not to have that. And if we want to talk about tax reform, a lot of options there, but that one right out of the gate, try something else. And I mean, I just don't know if he's going to be willing to die on that hill. So he's got a lot of other things to work on. But if we just don't say anything, then we get stuck with, like we have now on the car tax, which was an incomplete solution. And now we have that stupid PPTRA thing every year that's just a math nightmare and doesn't serve any real function anymore. So that's just my view of that. And I would suggest that if we have access to our legislators, say a word or two about how that's maybe not a particularly good or elegant solution to tax reform or tax cuts. Not saying I'm opposed to tax cuts, but that one right there just seems pointless and damaging. That's my opinion.
I don't disagree.
Is there going to be an opportunity for us to have a consensus vote among the entire commission body before legislature gets going? I don't think so.
No, there wouldn't be. So I mean, from the
So
executive
really needs to
commission,
happen on an individual basis.
and traditionally, I mean, honestly, the commission itself has not always taken. I mean, this is something that again is sort of developed over time. Commission endorsement. I think a lot of the individual counties will often endorse, and they already have done that for Mr. James' purposes. So again, it could be something that, with or without the commission's endorsement, I feel like this is the new things added, such as the grocery tax reference and some of the other things, more sort of develop just the conversation.
your indulgence.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we did ask for a compensation survey report to be done. I don't know if that's something we're not.
Yeah, I mean, I have it, but I think it's probably better to.
We can put that in until the February meeting. Then we have the nominating committee, which tends to fall traditionally to the executive committee. How it's been in the past. Anyway, we need to identify, the committee would identify a slate of officers for terms that would begin March 2021. As I said, traditionally, the executive committee serves in the role, although the committee can be expanded should any other commissioners wish to participate.
Well, you know, it's, we have to kind of chart this out a little bit when we have a terminal. But traditionally, historically, and in a nod to performance, certainly when everybody's available to be renominated, I can tell you in advance that we have a nominating committee. The nominating committee, gosh, you're not brave to say what they'll say. They will say to put the same slate before you, let them have their second year that's available. So I'm just saying that because if it's put in our hands, I just like the full commission to have a heads up rather than just when we bring it to you, what we're thinking. And traditionally, when we've got a bunch of people who serve the first year, the nominating committee puts them up for a second, just as a heads up. Not tying their hands, they could surprise me. I'm not challenging you, please, so they don't. But just so you know.
This is how it's typically done, but you know, and if there's anybody else who wishes to be on the nominating committee as well, it doesn't have to be the executive committee.
I move to make it the executive committee. However, anyone who'd like to be on it, I'd like to also move that anybody who'd like to be on it can join the group and be a member. You don't have to even name a name, you can decide later. This is an open, casual group. We want everybody's input. We don't hold a forum except when we have to.
I'll second whatever the motion was.
It's a whatever. It's a whatever motion.
As long as
It's a comment. It's a whatever.
yeah, okay, so, yeah, so the motion is that it will continue as executive committee, being the nominating committee, however, others
Trust anyone.
can join in and stuff. So we have a motion for that and a second. Is there any further discussion on that? We need a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I would note that what Mayor Pointer just said is true in terms of second year terms. You know, I also know that this year, the nominating committee will need to seek nominations for going into Region 9, which can also be reappointed, but you know, it's additional work for that.
Okay, that just in terms.
And so that would be something for the to-go Virginia positions, especially, we would send out an email or a request to the counties and towns if they had some interest in it.
Thank you. I missed that. Okay. Guess now we're up to 11G, the additional item, which was amending the charter to say that we should have substitutions should someone not be able to run.
And I would just say again, this is not to cast aspersions, and all of us can have situations we simply cannot attend. Just a way to allow us then to still have a meeting, especially if it's the last minute and people come a distance and sort of thing. So that would be a wonderful way if you knew you were going to be out of town for an anniversary weekend in South Florida, and you have your alternate attend. But really help us make sure we have a quorum. And right now, there's no really ability for that because your boards have to approve your representative, and we don't have an allowance, for a back and forth alternate regular. So we just set up to have a more flexible structure so that we won't have board meetings. Easily done.
Me personally, I can't support that. Basically, for fear that the attendance process would be watered down to some degree. And I think in order to have a qualified commission with basically the leaders of the jurisdictions we get to.
what if it were limited, like, so someone isn't habitually asking for replacements, but if it's, you can do it once, or you can do it twice over the account. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a good idea, but I do see potential for,
Well,
just call it off.
If somebody used it, the majority of our group was the auction, that would be a problem. In fact, if that happened, I would move to push down the road, whatever we would consider, unless it's an emergency, we have like an executive committee. Because of what Gary said, you've got to have qualified people aware of the issues. However, we've got a big group here. You've got 13 or 14 people here. 12 or 13 of them have been on it for many years. And they're leaders of this group, have been leaders in this group. And the one person attending, which might be a little wide-eyed, like, okay, what's this? Hopefully they're sharp enough if they come from your boards as well, sharp enough to pick up pretty quickly, whatever. But also, they wouldn't have to do anything other than listen to all the statements and vote. We didn't have to vote. They just need to be here so we can have a meeting. So they could sit here and quietly watch and just enable us to have a meeting. But yes, if it worked out so that we had a number like that, and I totally agree with Gary, they wouldn't be qualified to lead, carry the motions, carry the discussion, et cetera, et cetera. I'm looking more as like a one person allowed us to have a meeting, not someone who makes the discussion.
Should you look at maybe having a maximum number of alternates come to a meeting if that you go over that number?
Excellent thought. This is on the fly, so no, this is we're talking about as we go. That's
If you go over that number, then either you go to plan B or C. B is that you don't have a quorum, you go to the executive committee.
Plus, you're not forced to. So, in other words, we're setting up the structure to allow it. So, individual localities that may not vote for it today or want to do it in the future, they don't have to appoint an alternate. They can keep their primary and go right with that. I have a very active council member that I would appoint for mine if we do that. She's come from a big corporate career. She's a quick read, very intelligent. And knowing her, she would know the agenda well or better than me in case she was called on. So I could call her at the last minute. She'd know it better than anybody in the room. So I would have someone. But if I did not have someone like that, if I had a bunch of people that kind of just came to the meetings or taking my leadership, I would not appoint them because I probably wouldn't want to send them. I really want to have a good person. The limited number is interesting. I would trust. That's interesting. I have to think about this a little bit more because we want to do the right thing, but don't want to force anybody either. Just have a structure possible. So all the ones that say, nah, not for me, you wouldn't have to do it anyway. Just the ones where you've got to work.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we task just Mayor Coiner to go ahead and collect thoughts from different members to come back.
All right, we got to do that. Good points about limiting the number and even the potential issue with everything Gary just took to heart. Just trying to, especially if we're one short, just trying to make sure we have a meeting that's long. Okay, I'm glad to do that.
So we have a motion for that. Does someone second that?
Second.
As far as further discussion goes, yeah. Need some more noodling through. It's a good idea.
Hey, we just started thinking about it. We got to work on it.
It's black and white for me, so.
I appreciate it. Okay, well, I guess we did that.
Vote for the motion.
Yeah, we need to. All right, all in favor? Any- All right. So we'll get back to this on that, the next. All righty. I think we are to the end of our agenda. Let's do that pretty quickly. We're just at the round table. So we have sort of a U-shaped table. Mr. Evans, tell us what's going on.
All right, well, we got 2 new board members this election cycle, so then we'll get kind of oriented and excited to move into the next year with changing numbers. And, as far as redistricting was mentioned, appreciate Patrick and his staff coming over and putting the maps on the wall, and the board members just kind of said, move that line, and lo and behold, we got there pretty quickly, actually, so it was far easier than I anticipated. But we're gonna go ahead and turn in our plan to the AG, and even though we know the state hasn't finished their job, we believe that Culpeper will have a single senator and a single delegate at the end of this process, so we feel like we'll be worked out. Ultimately, probably gonna be successful. So, who knows, it's kind of a mess, but anyway, one thing, thank you, Patrick, for
Yes.
help with that.
Tremendous.
We've used the commission in the past, it's always baffled least resistance from this. I don't guess I have a whole lot else to report. Seems like we've slowed down some things, waiting for our new members to come on board. I guess I could say, I did give a report to the board in their meeting Tuesday about the CARES Act funds, which, as you all know, the deadline for them to be spent is upon us now. We did manage to spend close to $10 million on business relief and payroll and broadband, and a whole host of other things. When I went back and looked at what the board had appropriated funds for, I thought they did a really good job of spreading it around and trying to, do what the funds were meant for.
Well, this is where I take over because he's being modest. Because him and our finance director and staff led us all the way and kept us on track. Very challenging to spend all that money. One supervisor probably laundering money. But actually, we put a lot of the money toward emergency personnel, which we were able to do, so it wasn't really laundering the money, but John and his staff did a wonderful job leading the board all the way on that. And we have Mr. Chase served on the board for 40 years. So yesterday was his last meeting with us, and he had some health issues, but quite an accomplishment, 40 years on board. And I think talked with Gage at Baco, he said that the highest number was like 52 years. So 40 years is a long time. We have Mr. Rosenberg, he's down there 36 or 37, so he's still going strong. We had our groundbreaking ceremony for our rec center several weeks ago, and we had a great turnout, several hundred people there, and it was an amazing day, and very proud of that. And also, we went to Baco, and the one thing I heard at Baco, and I was talking to Patrick about this, that maybe the regional commission they want to discuss and get involved with, is the one tidbit I heard was of the enormous amount of money coming in on top of what's already been estimated from the revenue stream. The gentleman that got up there actually said it's just a, what did he say, a slush amount of money coming in. And he said it was, could be anywhere from 12 to $16 billion in additional revenue coming in for the state of Virginia over the next year and a half. And due to high income tax, businesses are doing better than we thought, and a lot of it's doing really good. So when we went into the high growth coalition meeting, I kind of brought that up, and I said, if we have that much money coming in over the next year and a half, who's going to lobby for us in the rural areas and from statewide standpoint? Because if we don't lobby or get people lobbying for us, a lot of that may go to Virginia. And Phyllis Randall was there, and she is the chairperson of Loudoun County, and I know her. She turned around and she smiled and she said, Gary, you're right. He said, if you guys don't have somebody lobbying for you, we are certainly going to lobby for you. So I talked to the chairman of the committee. I think we're going to have a high growth coalition meeting in Culpeper, maybe in January, to talk about how we can lobby for it. I think maybe we'll need FACO to help lobby for it too, from a statewide standpoint, because in order to get an even playing field, we're going to have to come up with something, because that's a lot of money. And you know, $15 billion, $12 billion is a huge amount. And sometimes we forget that a million compared to a billion. I heard a million seconds is 11 days. 1 billion seconds is 32 years. So that's a lot of money coming in for the state of Virginia. And I think we're going to be on top of it. Have some people working on this.
Yeah, that meeting gets scheduled.
Okay.
Mayor Corner, would you like to share what's going on in Gordonsville?
Most exciting thing I really can't talk about.
He's dying to.
Hopefully a big chunk of money. Can't talk about it yet. It'll be very important to us. I told you last time that our total our runway taxiway replacement renovation at the airport, it was going to be late fall. Is decided too close to winter. We're going to do it in the spring. And what other things going on? I'll just leave it at that and tell everybody Merry Christmas. Doggy must be over.
I'll skip it. Okay. Rappahannock County, the excitement is hopefully at the end of the month or before the next administration comes in, we'll know if we've gotten any of the value funds. The regional commission that we joined on. It's a large amount of money, and pretty much the only way Rappahannock County is going to get fiber time soon. We saw that the governor announced his increases in pay for teachers and I think police. As a county that tends to have a LCI that's at the top, those kind of things really hit us hard. So we will definitely be keeping an eye on that. You know, so sorry that we have an LCI of 28, but it isn't fun in a small county. The battle that I've got going on right now, and I was at the NACO event as well, is with CenturyLink. I don't know how many of you deal with them, but we have had times recently, I being one of them, that citizens were out for over 2 weeks. And the reaction is not as concerned as I would like CenturyLink to be. And so I met Katie Proctor at the NACO event, who I think it's the Virginia Rural Center or Rural Caucus, I'm not sure.
Christy, yeah.
Okay. I talked to her because in my mind, little Rappahannock County is not going to get a whole lot of attention, but if I can get a group of counties basically screaming as loudly as we need to, we have citizens that are ill and can't call 911 because they don't have a cell phone that works or a landline that works. And so we had a meeting by phone with multiple CenturyLink people, Jenny from Senator Odenchain's office, Delegate Roberts' office, Mr. Curry and Supervisor Whitson and myself. And during the meeting, gave them the information. I do chats with CenturyLink now anytime I call in a ticket because you get the synopsis at the end, everything's documented. And I told them it was over 2 weeks before we got our phone lines back up. And the response I got was that it should be 24 to 36 hours. They had somebody out sick and the supervisor that wasn't there, or whatever. And Gary and Kieran, I basically laughed at each other because there's nothing that happens in 24 to 36 hours in Rappahannock County when it comes to CenturyLink. So anyway, I now have the SEC in contact with us, and there is a ticket number because CenturyLink is being bought by somebody else and is gonna end up being Brightspeed or Bright Light, or I don't know what it is. But they have to go through the SEC for approval for this. And what the woman there told me to do was gather from any citizen the ticket number, the date that it went in, the timeline that CenturyLink said they would be out to repair it, when it was actually repaired, their phone number, their address, and submit it to the SEC so that during this hearing, all of this information will come out. And so Rappahannock County, through news, media, Facebook, everything, is really reaching out to the citizens, because we've got people that are always out, frequently out for this most recent, the pedestal got run over by somebody mowing. And so we had over 100 people out because of that for over 2 weeks. So we're gathering all that data together for the county's office, and we'll just send it to the SEC. The more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned. I don't believe CenturyLink's going to put any money into the copper, and I assume you all agree. So we're at least 2 years out at best, I think, from having fiber to home. We can't just say we're not going to have landlines for 2 years. I'm sorry. So any help you guys can give us by submitting information, contact me if you'd like the woman's name and number of the SEC or whatever. I'm happy to help, but definitely want to do something for our citizens. I feel like this is right, and rural America is being forgotten to some degree because everybody else has other options. We don't. And the final thing I have is Chris Parrish's last board meeting was Monday night, and he was with us for 12 years as supervisor of Rappahannock County, and supervisor-elect who just was sworn in, Van Carney, is taking his place in January.
So we a couple of our capital projects we want about now. There's 100 homes at Downhill Meadows that well underway now. And I don't know if y'all know, there was our street, there was a couple of traffic common element, bump outs. They've been eliminated because they've just been a mess for fire more than anybody else. So we removed all that. We're ready for our bids on the converting our water plant from chemical feed to liquid feed. We do have EDH approval, so moving along with that. Also, so this last week in town was the Rotary's Christmas parade in Holiday Village of ODA. And it was really pretty nice put on by the Rotary. At the town, we have since the last meeting, we have a new police chief, a lieutenant, and a director of finance. That's it. The last thing I'd like to say is, I'd really like to say thanks to the RRRC staff for all the work that they've done this year. That's a Merry Christmas to them. They've really been helpful.
Mr. Jackson, do you?
Yeah, thank you all for having me. We have 2 new members coming on the board in January. Should be exciting. Something new, different. We're working through our first solar case. We're following what everybody else is doing. It has some challenges, but there's some potential there. We're also going through and doing a revised event ordinance right now that'll basically cater to public safety. No fees associated, just trying to get people to alert us where we have limited options for public safety, just so that everybody knows what's going on. We put our assets where we need to go. We're working through with the VATI grants right now with broadband providers. I understand that they're going through and doing revisions at this point, and one challenge in Madison over towards Green County. We'll see how it all shakes out. Madison's got some of the same fun geographic challenges, I guess, that Rappahannock has with Ellen, that part of the world that has no providers at all down there. Hopefully we'll be able to get them soon. We've got some new business opportunities, and can't really talk about those, but there's some exciting things happening in Madison with that. We're also going through a public safety radio project. We hope we can maybe do something with Rappahannock because of where that tower, our last tower in the Upland area is, and maybe also Chandler National Park, and then potentially some cell phone providers for that area as well once that infrastructure goes into place. Today, we've got our county attorney and county administrator down there. Ted got out of it somehow, with the RSA mediation, which is just so exciting and great in every way. But hopefully we'll be able to get through that process in an equitable way, and this mediator will bring some clarity to the whole situation. Other than that, that's fairly quiet. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you, Clay, was looking for you, thank you.
Oh, I know, yeah.
I talked to you about it.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Conferences are fun, and,
we missed you there.
put it on the agenda for next year.
So Orange County, our election, yielded, the same board that we've had, of late. Our two long-serving incumbents, had no filed candidates, but they had a write-in campaign instigated by one of our local friends, and they prevailed. And our interim board member who replaced Gil Goodwin was elected to a regular term. So no change on our board, and we actually talked about we're at the end of our sort of 10-year vision strategic plan, and talked to our new outgoing leadership. They'll do a little change up in January about planning for our next chunk of time, and they were very straightforward with me. Said, you know what, we think we're on our last terms. Let's just keep doing what we're doing and not do some kind of big visioning thing. Let's wait for the next election. So that just gives you maybe a sense of where Orange is thinking, and where I'll be thinking is just kind of extend the focus of the current board for another couple of years, which is broadband. We're rocking and rolling. Now starting to have supply chain issues as we're trying to hook people up in their actual homes, and getting the electronics is a real challenge. Shipping container problems, and everybody and their brother trying to get broadband now, we are having supply chain issues. So some of our work continues because we ordered early. We still have spools and spools of conduit lying out in our parking lot. But so that we're doing that. We're happy to help any of our neighbors. I think all that really funnels through broadband toward the chairman, Jim White. But if you're a neighbor and you have something you want to talk to us about, I think there have been some conversations with Madison. I don't know particularly, but I know we have a joint applicant or regional application to serve part of Spotsylvania and part of Green. We hope that scores more points. So that's our sort of broadband thing, and our board election thing. The other big priorities that I think the board wants to see us work on are to use the fine examples of our Culpeper neighbors. They have a great CTV center that we had a board meeting at, not the last one, but the one before that. We went up there with a tour with some board members, some school board members, school administration, and our neighbors in Culpeper graciously hosted us and offered to help. And so we're trying to spin up a real project around that. So that'll be a focus. And another focus is parks and recreation. The board thinks that we've sort of handled some of the basic infrastructure issues. And so now we can move more to amenity type things. And so again, groundbreaking of a rec center at Culpeper, we're looking at kind of what's going on there and how we might place something in Orange. And it sort of looks like something in the eastern area because we have this large land use case going that we're likely to approve. And maybe in the Unionville area where we own some land. And then Booster Park, which is the current kind of largest county park, needs some next level amenities. And then an area over towards Gordonsville off Mountain Track Road that there's some ideas there that our incoming chairman has. So kind of looking to spread it across the county, so that'll be a focus. And I mentioned finishing the basics. Our radio system is in testing. The plan is it goes live in January, and then we move our 911 center into our new public safety building. Our sheriff's office and our fire and EMS and our IT department have already moved into our new public safety building, which is by our airport, just outside of Orange, just east of Orange, and we'd love to host one of the future meetings there, have a nice space for that, and our first board meeting will be on the 21st, on the ribbon cutting. We're inviting all the officials in Orange. Now that I think that maybe we should invite all the RRRC commissioners too, that would be nice. I'll mention that when I go back. We're certainly happy to have you. So that's kind of what's going on in Orange.
I'll try to be very brief. We had a nice, we used to have a nice parade in Little Washington to celebrate the holidays. COVID, that was put off, and we did a nice joint venture, a volunteer group of citizens of the town and Rappahannock County got together and did the first of 3 events, I think it's going to be, in Little Washington. I don't know, I mean, a couple hundred, 300 people there, something like that. So it's a nice turnout for something that got pulled together at the last minute. There'll be 2 more. I know Sprague's Amos on the other one. Anyway, Sprague, I think is on the 19th. So if you all have a chance before you cross the town, stop over in Sprague. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Our revenues are way up, as you may have seen when you all came out. There's a new restaurant down County Corner to the inn. The inn itself, the last 6 months, has been reporting full occupancy of its hotel 3 months out. So I know that you all have been waiting to have that little stay at the end. You'll have to wait until March before you can do it. So, and the town is just beaming because of all the additional revenue. We're grateful for that. And that prompts me to, again, echo along with everyone else happy.
Yeah, Mr. McCullough, you still out there?
I'm still here. From Fauquier County, I would note a couple things. First of all, thank you for allowing me to participate virtually. Unfortunately, I had a matter I had to attend to here that just couldn't wait. From Fauquier's standpoint, first of all, our application for the VATI grant with Dominion Project in All Point, it continues. We're expecting, and that's where most of our ARPA money has been placed to help that project in Fauquier. We're expecting that there will be an announcement Monday regarding that particular grant, and we're hoping that it's a favorable announcement with the other jurisdictions. Our Catholic Alley and Sewer project continues to move along. I will say that we are getting funded by fees from some of the contractors for the electrical work because of labor shortages, and so and the project was due to be ended in December. At the end of December, we're now looking at the end of March. But by then, hopefully, we will have cleared the 2 sewer issues for both those 2 jurisdictions. We're starting our budget process this Monday or this Friday. I start meeting with department heads regarding their particular budgets. Having gone through the general reassessment this year, I'm sure in the budget process, the board is going to drop the tax rate significantly, given the almost 25% increase in value over the last 4 years. So that's it from our end. I wish you all a happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Yeah. Thank you very much for participating today too, from your office. Appreciate it. As far as Culpeper goes, yesterday I went to swearing in for 2 more police officers in town, and with that and 2 additional officers in the academy, we will be at full staff in our police department for hopefully the foreseeable future. And if you know how challenging that has been.
How many is that?
46. And so it's been a real challenge to keep people, into our region. So we feel very fortunate, a great bunch of people. We will be starting January with 4 new council members and a new mayor, so well, half is going to be new. Our new mayor is not new, he's a lifetime public resident and also a longtime council member. So, but we do have four new people that we look forward to working with. Had a parade in town, same day, I guess it's Orange's parade, it went really well, by the numbers of people that I saw out there, the weather cooperated and everything came together well, and it was certainly nice to see, our community really appreciated it. With that, we were talking about possible locations for next meeting, and one of the ideas is the Carver Center in Coleman County. So that may be something we'll do for February. We would like to thank Madison again for this location today. This is wonderful. Fall missed a good lunch. We all enjoyed our lunch here, but again, thank you all for being here today. And I do wish everyone happy holidays, whatever holiday you celebrate this time of year. I hope you enjoy yourselves with your families and friends. Anybody have anything else? You all good?
Just a motion to conclude.
Yeah, motion to conclude. All right, I guess everyone, we are adjourned. Thank you.